it was only like for temporary, just get some money up kind of thing. It was going to be for about 2 weeks. After about 3 days, they fired me for no action, but for no actually. Now here's the kicker. Yeah. There was no good reason to fire me. I didn't do anything wrong. I showed up to work on time. I did what it was asked of me. Okay. It just said, after. For all intents and purposes, I get called. I was working through a temp agency. I knew it wasn't going to last very long, because I just knew. I didn't want it to. I just wanted it to go 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And then, but no, the temp agency says you're a terrible worker. You're all this and you're all that, and we're just. It's like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but this.
That's harsh.
Harsh, yes. Especially since I just did what I was told. I actually just did. That's all I did. I don't know. I couldn't ask you why I was fired there. There are jobs I definitely know why I was fired, but not this one I didn't.
You don't know. They just ambushed. But this led you to an epiphany. This led you to an insight.
Actually, it really did. Because what I realized, it was one of those moments in life where I just realized that this old way for me of doing things where I would work even on a part. I think I could still do a part-time job, but we're talking part-time, not full-time. I no longer am wired to work a full-time gig or work a gig just to make ends meet. This is my gig to make ends meet, not forced. A mind shift. Instead of saying, oh my God, I'm going to fuck this up. I don't want to fuck this up, because I think that's a very typical reaction the first little bit. I hit this epiphany of, I'm going to make this work no matter what. And that is a very different mindset than I'm afraid to fuck this up.
So this is your insight into being a freelancer, being self-employed is, hey, mindset change.
Mm-hmm. You have to. You have to believe that you're worth something. Now, here's the kicker. The moment I made that mind shift, now, I can't say this has happened every week, and in fact, it is the only week to hit that high. I have made good money some weeks, but it was the most money, even working a day job, it was the most money I've ever made in a week, was that week when I made that decision. Cool thing about being a freelancer is you don't get just one paycheck in a week, so you get multiples. That week, it just worked out that I
bunch of paychecks.
Yeah.
Well, the universe ratified your decision. The universe said, this is a good move. You got this.
Yeah. Now, I didn't make a single dime for another month after that, but but the mindset stayed. And ever since then, every month since October of last year, I have made 4 figures as a freelancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, it's not bad. Not where I want to be just yet. I want to make closer to mid 4, maybe closer to 5, because yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, I figured it. So since then, a couple things have happened. I did a show for an immigration company. It did really well, and it's the first time in my life I think I've been fired for doing too good of a job, because I got their viewership from 500 views for an article to 14K.
Oh, nice.
That's decent. Then they released me from my contract. The thing that amuses me, and this is why I'm not even upset or angry or anything like that. They're not paying 3 or 4 times as much for that show, and they haven't moved their audience up a needle since.
So they replaced you with somebody else.
Oh yeah. And in all fairness, he's a better video producer than I am. Not going to say he isn't. He's got the experience.
Okay.
Right. He's got the experience. But I also did some other things for them that they didn't realize I did for them. Now, they got momentum, they got money, they got advertising revenue in there. So they've drawn a certain degree of an audience. But hold on, let's see. I'm going to just do a quick little check. Now, I could be totally crushed live on the air, ladies and gentlemen, because they've
quintupled the last week.
Yeah. Nope. They are still right at the numbers they're at. So, yoink.
Yep.
I don't have an answer for you. I don't like. Now, I do think the show will eventually surpass what I did just by sheer gravity. but there is a certain amusement in the fact that I've been off their thing for quite a few months now, and they still never. They should be farther along than they are. Now, that's just my honest opinion. They should be a little farther than where they're. They should have exceeded me with what they've done.
Just like a podcast or a YouTube platform or something?
A YouTube platform show for immigration. I helped conceptualize the show. The current co-host is still there, as far as I know. Yep. Between me and her, we built the show, and she ended up getting a full-time job with the company, which is good. Kudos for her. I never wanted a full-time job with that company, and no, it worked out great. And then, like I said, it's the first time I'm like, hey, you did a great job. You're fired. It's like, yeah, pretty much. That's what happened. I was like, wow. But no, I did. But so now what I'm doing is I'm now doing like shows. The concept of my show, I'm creating micro ads for authors and other creatives to promote their books.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's what I've been. That's been that, and I've still been writing and publishing for magazines and stuff like that. I did my first comic book work this year. So yeah, I can't say it's been a bad year.
Yeah. Well, congrats, man. That's great.
Yeah. How about you?
It's interesting. So I think I had maybe this is a similar experience. So I worked as a lawyer full time for 11 years. Mm-hmm. And for 11 years, basically every single day, the alarm would go off whenever it was 6 o'clock, 5 a.m., 6:30. And I would hit the snooze button, and then I would maybe hit it again and finally get out of bed and drag myself off to work. Mm-hmm. And when I, in 2010, left, I didn't really leave the legal profession. I'm still a lawyer, but I stopped being employed. I lost my job. The company got bought. My job went away. I lost my ability to sleep in. I could no longer, not only could I not hit the snooze button, but I don't sleep till the alarm anymore. If I know I have to get up, I'm up before, before the time. I set an alarm for 6. I will wake up at 5:50. That was never true before. And I think the difference, so this is maybe kind of a similar experience, but kind of from the other end. I think the difference is before I was punching a clock for a big company. Did that for 11 years. Never really cared very much about punching a clock. It's just a clock. Mm-hmm. And my share in the company was nothing or was very small. And I never thought, well, long term, my future is here. I'm not building my future. I'm just trading my time. And I didn't care. It was hard to drag myself out of bed. And the minute I started caring about the outcome, or I said, well, I need to write a book, or I need to go out and get my own clients, I no longer could sleep in. Like, that's it. Like, I cared. I would wake up, and I'd wake up thinking about what do I have to do today to go, build my own future.
Yeah, and then your day becomes really simple. You get up. So this is my case. I'm sure you have a similar routine in one sense. You get up. Usually right before I go to bed, I release the audio version of my podcast, and I release a YouTube video. Although I don't advertise my YouTube isn't anywhere near what I should. It's just there. It's there for people if I need to put someone to a resume of what I've done, my YouTube is my resume. And that's why I treat it at. I'm not trying to monetize it. Maybe I should, but I just don't. It's YouTube. I don't care. Right. So it goes there. But that's my thing. When I wake up, I advertise. Right. And then I advertise. Like I'm writing ad copy for my thing on LinkedIn and Facebook. I am getting ready for if I'm streaming, I'm getting ready to stream in the evenings around this time. If I have to do research, I do it. And in between, I'm just doing whatever I need to do. Like, my goal is to get clients too and work on some things, right? Like I said, I just got started the advertising thing. So I've only had a handful of clients so far. So I'm at that point where I'm trying to get anything I can, because that's just what I'm trying to do to build up. Right. then when I do get some excess money, I am investing in myself, because my other goal now is to get to the point where this can pay for me putting out my books, doing things on Kickstarter, doing some things and some of the other things I'm doing, because that way, again, at this point in my life, I don't see myself. I do see myself possibly getting a part-time job here and there to make ends meet sometimes, but I'm done. I have to build my own future now. There's no ifs, there's no ands, and there's no buts about it. And when you're punching a clock, the big thing about it is it's the habits of punching a clock carry over. That's the thing. And that's the one thing. If you don't, and much like you, I never cared about punching a clock. It doesn't mean a damn to me. So even though I think I minimized the damage that did, like, there's a professional line of damage. Because if you don't care, you got to keep yourself at a certain standard so you don't sabotage yourself and everything else you do in your life.
Sure.
Right. So, but now it's like, well, if I don't move my ass, I don't get paid. And if I don't get paid, I don't eat. If I don't eat, I might have to find a version of you that works for the law, going, hey, so can you get me out of here? You know. So.
No, 100%. And it's not just the financial side. That's very real. But there's also the mission, right? There's the beauty of it. There's the wool, right? Like, I'm not just going in to negotiate a contract for my, billion-dollar employer, and then I'm gonna, write an email to the CFO, and then like I'm leaving things behind. I'm constructing, in my case, books, right? And related things that will outlive me, and I care about them, and I want them to exist, and so it's very different from being an employee.
Yeah. Speaking of which, right before I left Windsor, actually I should say I'm now back in Calgary for the time being, so I'm closer to you than I was.
Okay, yeah. You were in Ontario before.
Yeah. It's one of those weird moments in life where you just get this mission of, hey, you can do more good here. Are you sure? It's like, shrug. Here I am. Still looking for a life, but it's slowly coming my way. So, it's one of those. It's one of those situations where, where is I going with this? Oh, I got all your books from the Witch series, your Witch series.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was right before I left Canmore. I'm going back to Canmore. I've already made that decision in my life. I'm going back to Canmore. I don't know if you ever been to Canmore, Alberta, but if you have, it's one thing to look at mountains an hour away. It's another thing to wake up in the mountains every day.
Sure.
I miss that feeling so much.
I've never been to Canmore. Where is Canmore?
An hour from Calgary.
Okay, so I have been to Calgary.
Yeah, so the mountains you see out west when you look at Calgary, and you're like, those look really cool even from here.
So Canmore's over there in them. Yes.
I ended up in Canmore for about 8 months, and I was like, I woke up every day to
wow.
To the mountains, and moose and deer would wander the streets, some parts of Canmore, because they just could, and they still do. And you're like, and they own it, because out there, it's not like the city. There's no, you can walk across the main highway there at some points, and there's no traffic there. There's legitimately no traffic, because just where you're at, and it's like, oh my gosh. And then you see these guys just doing their thing, and everybody no one wants to hit a moose with their car. No one. You don't.
Yeah.
Right.
It looks like a pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Would you'd say a town, maybe, not even a city?
No, it's a town. It's a town. It's not like a population of 2,000. It's like in the 10, 20,000 population. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's nice. It's a nice size. Yeah. Right. So
it looks delightful.
I had to leave to go back to Calgary to build my business. I'm not happy. I'm not happy, Dave. I can't say I'm completely happy about that.
Okay, so you just gotta build up your business, and make sure it's work you can do remotely. Right?
Done.
And Canmore, it looks delightful.
Yeah, no, it's like I think for me, like I don't know how long I'm going to be in. I think I'm going to be in Calgary for like I have an interesting gig coming up in October.
Okay.
It's a really cool little challenge. I can't go into that. I can't go into details of it because nothing's been signed yet.
Okay.
Right, but suffice it to say, I'm going to have a very fun year. Depending on how much I make, I actually might move back to Canmore and come into Calgary during a couple days a week just to
Awesome.
do my job because that's because it's like what they go. Why are you there? I mean, have you looked at the place? It's like, why are you? Would you come back to Calgary? Maybe. You know, I'm not.
Calgary's all right. I remember Calgary. So you
No, Calgary. Okay, Calgary
there's a great
is
milkshake joint. Somebody said, "Oh, you're going to Calgary." I can't remember the name of it, but there's this burger.
Peters Drive-In is exactly the place. Yep, that's the place.
And I went there and got I can't remember whatever it was, big caramel milkshake or something with my burger. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. Oh no. There's some cool little secret like spots in Calgary like that. There's another place like not too far from there called CB's that's got probably the best fries in town. Right. So no, Calgary. No, I don't hate Calgary. I legitimately don't hate Calgary. But like I said, man, you wake up to that every day.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying. So what do you? I say 100 miles, 110 miles.
About that. About. It's a little 110 clicks. About 70 miles. Give or take about 70 miles.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I don't trust me. In the middle of August, when I get my next big check,
and
I'm taking a trip because I want to go. I might actually go deeper into the mountains for a few. Because again, cool thing about being a freelancer is you get to set your own schedule. So I might just keep like 2 or 3 days open. I'm just going to enjoy that for about 2 or 3 days, and then come back feeling both really, really happy and also really, really sad at the same time. It's like, yes, I did it. Oh, I gotta go. Okay, not a bad situation, huh?
No, that's none of it's a bad situation. Now, your dad lives in Windsor, doesn't he? Remember that, right?
Correct. Yes.
So he's still there. You're just headed out on your own into the west.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's one of those things. The cool thing about going back, I mean, is you get to see. I mean, I love my dad, but some of the ways he does things are not the ways I want to do things.
So
that's how it goes, right? And also, like for me, one of the deciding factors there, he has a business he needs to grow. But the way he needs to grow that is he needs to train people. Now, if he listens to this, he's gonna be like, I don't have time to train people. To which I say, bullshit. I get the problem. I do get the problem, right? But at the same time, he's hit that point. Like you're at that point where to grow, you need more people to work with you to grow. That's just how it goes. Even with me, with what I plan on doing for business stuff, if the podcast keeps going and growing the way it's growing, eventually I'm going to hit the point where I'm right. I hit 1 week of 2,000 downloads this year. That was my biggest milestone, which is not bad, right?
Yeah.
Now, once that becomes I'm hoping that make that a regular thing. Once that becomes a regular thing, then at that point, I might have to hire out because investing. I do all these things on my own, but at the same time, I'd rather just talk and have a big mouth and not have to worry about audio engineering and limiters and buffing, right? And also, some people will do it better. Well, also, just some people would do it better than me. I'm not saying I'm bad at it, but I've definitely done it long enough to be good at it. But there are other people who could probably do it better than me. And,
they don't have to do it better than you. If they free you up to do what you're best at,
yeah,
you can
exactly.
still add value that way, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like that's pretty much it, right? So let's again, and also it'll give me an opportunity to invest in other areas of the podcast, like actually meeting people for sponsorships and things of that nature, because I'll have more time, right? It's funny how that works. And then you grow, and then again, you need more people, and eventually you become a giant organization bent on world domination. Look at Amazon.
There were more steps in between. I think that was a.
Hey, listen,
1, 2, 3, but
Hey, listen, it was 1 to 1,000. Okay, I admit there's a lot of steps in the middle, but 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 the idea is the same. You have, if you want to get your organization to a point where you can really, really, truly be lucrative off it, you need people. It's just the way it is, right? You need a community of people that are good. I mean, the challenge is finding reliable people, but that's part of the process too. Eventually, you will find those people, and when you do, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congratulations on the adventures and on the success and the growth and on the new mindset. That's all fantastic.
Does that sound copacetic pretty much how you see the world?
Well, I mean, yeah. I don't know. I don't even know what to react to there, Josh. I mean, absolutely. I think you're right about, scale, right? Like most businesses, you can be a craftsperson, be a hired gun. And if your skill is, unusual, you can charge a lot and you can live an okay life. But mostly, right, how you grow, how you expand, how you do well is scaling, right? How can I get this one, how can I take my time recording this podcast and reach more people? Or if I write this book, how can I, instead of 100 people reading it, can I get 1,000 people reading it? Can I get 10,000 people reading it? Right? Can I turn it into a movie? So, yeah, absolutely. I maintain a list somewhere in this office of things I will one day hire an assistant to do. There's just like there's this moment, right? There's this threshold where I can reliably pay an assistant to do stuff. And
yeah, that's a tricky part. That's tricky too,
right?
That's a tricky moment too. You have to kind of take a leap of faith at some point and go, okay, I'm going to trust it's going to magically work out. And sometimes it don't. I know.
Yeah. I mean, the trick is if someone else comes to depend on you for their income, right?
Oh yeah, no, totally.
So I'm pretty sure, I've got about 2 days a week worth of stuff for somebody. So a moment when I can reliably generate 2 days a week of income for an assistant, then that'll be the trade-off point. That'll be the turning point.
Yeah.
Not there yet.
No.
You're ahead of me.
I don't know. I don't know. I think he might be ahead of me. Again, I'm still going through the ups and downs, man. There's some months I still make the 4 figures. Some months I make nothing. It does happen still, right? I think I'm probably realistically a year or two away from being exactly where I really want to be. But I also think I'm on the right. I think I'm on the right track. I think you sounds like you are too, actually.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. I'd like to be more productive, but I'm getting there.
I think, well, visibly productive or actually more productive?
Well, so what I would like to do is be so I have a portfolio career, which is to say I make money doing several things. So the things I have made money doing so far this year are being a lawyer, being a consultant, being an editor, writing, being a corporate trainer. So 5 things. What I would like to do is be more productive with the writing and do less of the other stuff. I'm pretty productive on the whole. What I want to do is shift the balance of things so I'm spending less time training people how to read P&Ls, less time working on corporate transactions, more time writing novels.
No, I totally get that. So then can I ask a interesting question then?
Sure.
If you had to keep one of those skills to focus more on your writing, which one would it be?
If I had to keep one of those skills?
If you had to keep one of the other skills, let's assume you could discard. Writing is the one you really care about. The rest of them,
most of the others had to keep one.
If you had to keep one of them, what would it be?
Yeah, I would keep editor. And in terms of the income that makes, that's probably that's even smaller than a writer. That's like the least income I'm making right now. But it is the most writing adjacent. It's the most related to writing. It's the most complementary, and
Yeah,
it's again, yeah, and it's again things I sort of care about. You know.
I get that. No, the reason I'm throwing this at you like this because one of the other things that kind of made it. So the first 6 months I did freelancing, I was trying what the fuck am I supposed to do here? Try to write, try to do this, try to do that.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what my niche was. Now keep
Yeah.
in mind, I've been doing this podcast at that point for 5 years.
Yep.
Right? It never occurred to me that was my niche. It was like because I had done it for so long, I never considered. Right? If that makes sense, right? I never considered it as a career thing. And then I just think to myself, holy shit, I have a big mouth. Wait a minute. How can I make money out of this? Right? Right. And it sounds like one of those really odd eureka moments. But to go along with what you're saying is what I have found, one of the other things I found was it took me a lot longer to put it all together what I do. But in terms of the freelance thing, is what I realize is freelancing ultimately is service. It's a service industry.
Yep.
So it's customer service. So the question then is, how would you want to serve? I mean, whether you're a lawyer, whether you work for corporate, you're serving a particular client, an audience, something. Writing is the same thing. You're serving an audience. The challenge a lot of writers have is, who is that audience, right? Who is my audience? Who is going to like my stuff, right? And you can make some ideas based on some educated guesses. Well, this is about this and this, so fans of this and this will like that. But like, for example, my Alice in Wonderland Greek mythology series, I'm like, well, Alice in Wonderland fans feel like a no-brainer, right? Do you know another group that feels like a no-brainer? Theater kids. So how do I market to them to get them to come actually take a look at this? Right? I'm looking it up. So it's figuring out your service. Even with writing, there's service points. So going down but from the freelancing end of things, okay? Right? If you there's no, I get where do you serve best? Right? Where do you serve best? What are you actually read? You care about the editing. Where do you serve best? What do you give a crap about the most? And then at that point is, how do I advertise myself so that people know I do this awesome thing?
Sure. Well, I mean, that's the $64,000 question. I mean, what I most want to, of the things I do that generate income, the thing I would rather spend 100% of my time on is writing novels, which I'm not sure it's a service. I'm not sure that I agree with you there. Editing is a service, but writing is making art. Writing is creating, and I'm not saying it's like better than a service. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying it's, I don't look down on service, but it's at least very different kind of service.
It is.
So if a lawyer or a consultant, I've got a client has a problem. I go to the client, help the client fix the problem, right? At the end of the day, did I help the client advance their business? Yeah. Did I help them accomplish some of their mission? Yeah. But the mission's theirs, right? And the credit is not, the credit's theirs if there is credit. The assets, what is being built is theirs, right? If you're a guy, you show up. Editing is, well, let me come to editing last. Okay. So consulting is like that too. The corporate training is like that. I go into a company and they have a problem. What's the problem? Our customer service people don't understand the business as well as we'd like. Please come train them. So I go do it. Right. So it's kind of the same thing. Writing's different, right? Writing, I don't start from the point of view of, oh, this person over here has a problem. Mm-hmm. I don't start from the point of view of I have a problem. It's not about a problem, except in the really high level sense that human existence and life are problems, right? It's about beauty, and it's about story, and it's about transforming my lived experience and my vicarious experience and my worldview into art that other people can enjoy and that can even potentially be transformative to them, right? And assets are being built, art is being created. That, in fact, I think the current copyright laws is until after I've been dead for 70 years, my children will own. But even after that, it will still exist as a discrete, identifiable thing.
Mm-hmm.
People can go, "This is the oeuvre of DJ Butler," right?
Yes.
This series was written by DJ Butler. So, I don't think of it as the same kind of thing at all from that point of view. The now from like an economic point of view, from like so service, it's tricky to scale service, right? Like to provide legal service, you mostly have to have lawyers. So, how do you scale service? You can make them work more hours. You can automate some tasks. Maybe some low level legal stuff can be turned over to an app. But fundamentally, you have to have a lawyer get in there and spend,
in the door.
right? So it doesn't scale very well. A book is curious. If you write a book, you create an asset. Or I'll grab one of my actual books. You create an asset. So here's this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once it exists, it might sell zero. Like one outcome is possible that is possible is that no one ever reads it, right? You write a book, no one will review it. No libraries acquire copies. Nothing. I don't know if these numbers are still current. I remember when I was first looking at kind of publishing and self-publishing, the average self-published book sold fewer than 50 copies.
Yes, still
right?
does. Still by and large does.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised. And what that means is some sell 5 or 10, right? And because some sell huge numbers. So it means a lot of people write their book, work really hard, right? Maybe for all I know, say wonderful, beautiful things, and their family buys the book. I know for a fact my younger cousin, I was gonna say young cousin, but at this point I'm 50. He's probably 35. I don't know. My cousin Brian wrote a novel, and I know he did exactly that. Put years into it. It was really excited. I think he might even have done the cover himself. Last time I looked, I think I was the only review on Amazon. Like I bought it, gave him a review, and
so I've actually been really nice this year. Every book I've read, not including my Japanese light novel series I really like, I have reviewed. So I'm going to keep that trend up for this year. But
that's awesome. That's very generous. Now the other possibility, right, is that or the other end of the spectrum of possibilities is that you're J.K. Rowling and you publish this little book and you've never really written a book before and it's about his boy wizard and you're kind of maybe following in the footsteps of a lot of other books. It's not really a lot of new ground, but holy cow, boom, it blows up.
Yes.
Right? And you're a billionaire. And then there's this, and of course, the curve does not look like a diagonal line. It looks like a long, slow, and then bam, way up at the far end where you've got Stephen King, George R. R. Martin, Stephanie Meyer, J.K. Rowling. So it's not like a service. It's more like gambling. You're creating these assets, but every asset you create is also like you're putting down a chip on the roulette wheel. And you do things, you try really hard, you blow on the wheel, slow down, and you get your lucky rabbit's foot and you whatever you can to try to make the roulette wheel land on you. But the truth is there is an element of luck. And so I have like a portfolio career where I go out there and I am doing service things, and those are, practicing law, consulting, training. Those are cash flow. I can turn in an hour of work or a morning of work and I can get paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. Like if I do the hour of work, I get paid for the hour of work. That's it. Whereas the book, more likely than not, any individual book does nothing, really, sells some copies, right? And in the aggregate, the audience builds. but also every one of them is a bet that says something truly marvelous might happen. You might, Denis Villeneuve might decide he loves your books and he's going to make the Witchy War TV series, right? Fresh off of Dune Part 2, $100 million war chest. Or you just take off and you sell 100 million copies. So I mean, it's like gambling. It's like investment. It's like venture capital. It's like private equity. We're making little investments in lots of companies and trying to help as much as I can to see which one will take off. So yeah, I have a portfolio of activities, and within I have this portfolio of books.
So
we'll see what happens.
May I offer a counter argument?
Okay, sure.
Actually, I have a counter argument. It's not. Okay. I don't disagree with the roulette. I'm going to acknowledge something, and this is where I will concede to you. It is a roulette wheel to a large. It is a roulette wheel, definitely to some extent. I have in my 10 rules of success. The 4th rule is the rest is rain. Another way, and the reason I say that is you have no control where the rain is going to fall. Or if you're a Star Trek fan, one of my favorite Captain Picard quotes of all time, Mr. Data, it is possible to do everything correctly and still lose.
Yes.
Paradoxically, but this is the paradox. And Colleen Doran, graphic novelist Colleen Doran pointed this out. This is what she said. You can do, if you don't do the right steps, you have 0 chance of success. Consequently, if you do the right things, you can still fail. But that is the roulette wheel part of the equation. So I will concede that point. But this is what I feel, and this is what I have felt for the last couple of years. Something I realized. I walk down the street, I look at billboard signs, I look at company logos, I look at video games, I look at all these things. The fact of the matter is, in today's day and age, story is legitimately everywhere. Now, it might not be a novel. It might not be a work of art per se. Although I would argue some commercial stuff definitely is art, right? We live in a world where there is a butt ton of stories everywhere. So the question then becomes is why do those pay and why do books struggle? And then I realized what the so for me I would go like this. The reason the curve is as high as it is, especially when you look at novels. Let me ask the question: what does a DJ Butler book feel like?
What does it feel like?
What does it feel like when I read your book? What does it feel like?
That's an interesting question. So you're kind of going down the space of like selling the benefits rather than selling.
Kind of. I'm definitely going down a selling route because I want to go back because here's the thing, and this is what I realized. This is what I realized. I've been dabbling in advertising for the last 6 months, and one of the things I've learned about advertising is this is going to sound really, really obnoxious. By and large, the product doesn't matter.
I think there's a very real element of that.
Oh, no, there is. But it sounds obnoxious when you first hear it until you actually really look at it closely. What I'm selling to you. Let's say I was going to, let's say I take you on as a client. What I would be looking at with you is I would look at what is the best potential stories that we would tell inside of an hour. I would create a micro ad to tell that story. Why? I want people to have an authentic sense of who you are, but more importantly, I want you to convey a story or a feeling to the audience because that feeling is what's going to connect them to you. Now, when you look at Stephen King, what does a Stephen King novel feel like? What does a J.K. Rowling novel feel like? What does a Jonas Saul novel feel like? What does a Alana Andrews novel feel like? What do these really big best-selling authors feel like? What you'll find is when you look at them, they create a similar feeling each and every time. And the more pronounced that feeling is, the stronger the reaction the audience has.
So I think that's not a complete story either. I mean,
No.
very famously, both Rowling and before her, Stephen King, tried the experiment of okay, I'm going to write a book under a different name
Hmm.
to try to prove that hey, it's my writing skills that caused me to become a mega bestseller, not anything else. And if I write under the name of Richard Bachman, or I forget what the name is that Rowling wrote under,
It was a male name. I can't
it
remember
was
what
a
it
male
was.
name, and it was
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was a male name, but I can't remember what it was. Yes.
to prove that hey, it's my writing skills. And guess what? It wasn't.
No.
It wasn't. So it's really at a certain point, what's driving people to buy is their feelings associated with the name and the brand,
And
not even so much the books anymore,
ex-
right?
and I totally agree with you. This is
Yes.
why this is why I conceded at the very beginning the roulette wheel. This is
And
why,
people
yeah,
even say of Stephen King, and I'm not a big Stephen King fan, so I don't have a view on this one way or the other. After the car accident, his books have never been the same since,
no,
but they still sells. Uh, so 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 I think I can answer the question, which is to say but here's the problem, right? So I know what I'm aiming for, and I think I pretty consistently can get in that space. I don't know well, there's a whole bunch of problems. I don't know for sure people are experiencing what I think they should be experiencing and what I want them to experience. Is sort of the first basic problem, right? So I think that what a DJ Butler book should feel like is that it first of all should be provocative. It shouldn't feel easy. It should feel like there's a lot here. It's complex. Enough things are moving that I need to be paying attention. But I'm able to do that because the language is light enough and because also it's funny from time to time.
it's
It
fun.
should feel like it's an engagement, not with a complete fantasy, but an engagement with the real world that is hiding behind a mask in some way. It's a little bit dressed up. Um, so but I don't know that that's what people actually are feeling.
Yeah. So, man, I wish I could tell you this on the air. I'll tell you it off the air what I'm doing for my little project because
Okay.
this is one of those things I'm
All right.
focusing on because what I realized, and this is something I clicked onto this, right?
Yeah.
And it's maybe it's a dumb thing, maybe it's a smart thing. The stronger a person feels about something, the more they're going to invest in something. This is something like being on Twitch, being in on Discord, being in a few other places. All right. I
Sure.
realized this. The stronger the feelings you can introduce into your audience, the more invested they become in your story. And I realized, and it's something, and something I realized because I'm not like again, the other project I'm working on. It's one of the things I'm very conscious of with the product I'm dabbling with is how does it feel? It needs to feel a certain way to stand out. Again, still acknowledging a roulette wheel. There is definitely an element of luck to it, and I cannot dispute that. But again, it's about maximizing my chances of success. It's not about it's the guarantee. I can't guarantee a success. There's no such thing as a guarantee. What I'm betting on is that if I tell a funny joke and I make 90 people in that room laugh, right? Then my other goal is to have those 10 people really hate that joke. Because I have an investment both ways. Either you really like it or you really don't. And I got you. If you feel nothing, if you're like this, oh, that was nice, then I'm probably screwed. Because you're not my crowd. You're just not my crowd, and I don't want that to not be the crowd. So again, I've been thinking about this in these terms, right? Because when I start thinking about it in these terms, I think the part I'm not saying it's the entire reason of the Bell Corp because I noticed that Alana Andrews is a simpler example for me because it's urban fantasy. There's a romantic elements. There's certain elements in the Kate Daniels novels that are always there. They were able to create a world that a lot of people could connect to, gravitate to, and as a result, like Ilana Andrews, the husband and wife team, now have a very comfortable living, right? Because they found this formula that people are invested in. And by the way, the service you're providing, and this is going to sound again silly, self-medication, not in this form of drugs and alcohol, but in terms of people are looking for ways to escape into another world, a world they can feel comfortable in and experience a feeling. That's
I agree with that, except that I don't think it's a service. So look, let's use the medicine analogy.
Okay, sure.
Art is medicine. That's an old observation. That's Aristotle, right?
Yes.
So I think a doctor, to provide a service, goes and sees a patient. Mm-hmm. And like a lawyer, he can scale his activities only so much. So he can get people to do the billing and people to do the scheduling, and he gets a PA to go in and take your blood, your oxygen saturation and your the arm cuff to check your blood pressure and all that stuff. And then he comes in, right? So he can see the maximum number of patients, but that's all he can really do. The drug company is not selling a service. They've made a product. Mm-hmm. And that product, the doctor can only see X number of patients defined by the amount of time he's got. The drug company,
doesn't need that.
Once they figure out the R&D, it takes them 2 cents to make the pill, right? Yep, the R&D is $1 billion, but once they know how to do it, it's 2 cents a pill, and they can sit there and they can treat the whole world. So a writer is more like drugs than like a doctor. That's what I'm saying. Writers are.
So we went from product to just good old fashioned blow. Is it like blow? Are we more like blow or like marijuana?
Cocaine was seen as medicinal for a long time.
Very much so, yes.
Yeah.
Even tobacco was once upon a time. Ironically, like native, not cigarettes, but the actual tobacco plant themselves cured addiction. You want irony? There's irony in front of you. Right?
Help you control your weight. You want to get that weight off after the baby? I usually, instead of snacking, smoke a couple of cigarettes.
I remember that. Oh,
that was a thing.
Oh no, it really was. No. We live in the fucked up world. We really, really do. No. Years later, hey, that idea that we said here, don't. Then eventually you just realize why.
Well, we're not any better. I mean, one of the stories this week is. We've been saying that chemical imbalances in the brain cause depression for the last 50 years. And now there's some big research out that suggests that that's not true. And that in fact, antidepressants may be just straight up placebos. Maybe those are not having the effect we think they are.
Oh, I could, that's actually not new. It's old. What happened about 20, I have known that for about, they can do stuff. But the thing is, okay, in a male, like teenage males back in the 90s were given zinc and vitamin C for depression here in this country. The reason why is zinc for men is very important in our development. It's very important in our mood. If we have low zinc levels, we are the most miserable bastards on the planet. We just are, right? But the other thing is, when most people, our serotonin is somewhat controlled by our stomach. And one of the best ways to control it is with citric acid, vitamin C, lemon. It's a really simple formula. So someone has a serotonin issue or this is just a simple example. Someone that has those issues, it could just simply sometimes be solved with something for the stomach, not necessarily for the head. But we've had this for years where we're just going to play with your brain chemistry. It's like, that's not always a good idea. But
so we've been doing this experiment. Right, on millions of people for like 40 years now.
Oh, I know.
And now, and there have been doubting voices all along, right? Tom Cruise had this famous interview in like the 90s, I think. This is Tom Cruise, Matt Lauer interview, where Tom Cruise basically says all this stuff, and Matt Lauer looks at him like he's crazy. And again, I think that was like 1992 or something.
Oh no, like I said, the information they're coming out with now. It's not really new. What tends to happen is if you really want to look for that kind of information, you can find it now. Like with everything that happened last year, there's a lot of information coming out right now that would horrify some people if they looked. But the thing is, people don't look. So what happens is people just will accept. Then inevitably, whatever damage these things do, catch up. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, shit, what's going on? And then the pale unlouds. And I've seen this not just with last year, but with opiates. I've seen it with antidepressants. And I've seen it
Yeah.
with a few other things. And that's just in my lifetime. You're a little older than I am. You've seen
Yeah.
more bullshit, right? You've seen it. Yeah, I mean, it's the same pattern.
Well,
Right?
another big story this week in the U.S. is Deborah Birx, who was one of the Trump administration's advisors on COVID, senior advisors, and was very public up there with Fauci out there, giving the president advice and publicly telling people, do this, don't do that. She's written these memoirs in which she talks about how she deliberately exaggerated and distorted everything.
Yeah.
She oversold the vaccines, and like, I don't know. I think there's an argument she ought to be in prison. That they're confessing to crimes.
Oh,
But
sure.
no, she's selling a bunch of copies of this book about how she lied to the American public.
But again, it's
Like you say, last year.
yeah, like I said, no, this is again, this is nothing new. The problem is, as far as that goes, is twofold. Like I said, one, no one reads. Something I've noticed about this, we don't have time to read everything, but no one even looks. And people they'll hear a story if they buy the idea. By the way, that's rule.
They see the headline.
They see that
whatever fits in their existing worldview.
Yeah, exactly. So by the way, that's rule 9 of my thing. Be detached from all outcomes. Because if you buy an idea, it's the hardest thing to do is convince you that idea is wrong. So if you're detached from all outcomes, you can change your mind a lot easier, and it doesn't break your brain quite so much to do it. Harder to do than I say, but nonetheless still very true.
That is hard. That's a tall order, Josh.
Oh no, but you have to, because we don't live in when you live in a world where, as you say, people exaggerate, distort, lie.
Yeah.
You can no longer assume that any idea, this is the sad truth, is true. So you have to make your and you have to kind of make your own best guess. And this is where I'm kind of at is I have to acknowledge that I'm going to make mistakes. Right? Even with the best of all I can do is the best I can with the information I'm given. But what I can do going forward with that is say, if I see something to correct me, I'll at least look at it, even if I don't agree with it. Yeah. That might be hard, but the thing about that is, again, I'm detaching from the outcome. I'm realizing my own limitations, that I don't have the answers, and that the things I would normally trust aren't necessarily work for my benefit. So I have to assume that. That's the one thing I have to assume until something changes. Maybe that sounds very cynical, but that's the world I'm in.
No, I think actually, I don't have it here to grab it and check, but I think actually you're paraphrasing one of the lines in the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
What you're saying is something that's got a very kind of Hindu or Buddhist philosophical point to it. And I think it's, Krishna sitting there talking into the ear of the archer Arjuna in the middle of the battle between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. That's what the Bhagavad Gita is that.
Yeah,
is
yeah.
That and I think it's something like you don't. It's something like you don't own the victory, or something like something that you own shooting the arrow, but you don't own it hitting the target.
Mm-hmm.
There's something like that, and I wish I had it facilely to hand, and I don't.
Yeah.
It is an admirable attitude. I mean, there, I think a person, you still have to, especially to become more responsible. If you have employees or you have children who depend on you, it can still be true that that you don't own the outcome, but you still have to think about what am I going to do about,
Yeah, no, absolutely no. That can be, but even in that, ultimately, it's about doing the best you can. Understanding the limitations of that moment. I don't begrudge anybody their choices. That's
Sure.
not what I'm saying. Like whatever choice you make is your choice, right?
Sure.
Right? It's the fact that the fact that because if I'm not attached to the outcome, I will never look at somebody else's choice. Even if I don't agree with it, I won't judge them or condemn them for it. I don't want to be that person because again, that from what I've learned on that is, especially if sometimes they're right and I'm wrong later.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm condemning them now, what does that say about me? Right? Again, it's one of those things like I was very conscious of what was going on last year and I saw the impact and I saw some things in people's natures that really made me go, ugh. Like that does not like this is not who I want to be. And I realized that the only way to make sure that I don't become that person ever is okay, why do these people do this? It's like, right? And it's like because they're convinced they're right. So if I attack, and that's all it really comes down to. Well, I can still be convinced I'm right, but can I do it in a way that doesn't condemn anybody for disagreeing with me? And I realize that the answer to that is just don't be so attached to the idea that I'm right.
Yeah.
That was my answer. Now maybe that's the wrong answer, but that's my answer, right? So
yeah. No, I think that's admirable. I think I tend to agree with you. I might formulate it different. I'm not sure that I would formulate it different, but
yeah,
I like the idea.
yeah. It's the biggest lesson I learned from the pandemic. That's actually the biggest. It is the biggest lesson because it's the only way. I never want to be. I may be a villain at some point in my life, but I don't really want to be a monster. And that's
Yeah.
right. I figured I will never be a monster if I always keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, interesting.
Yeah. Food for thought.
Food for thought.
Would you like to hear my 10th rule? My 10th rule is actually a fun one.
Tell me your 10th rule, Josh.
When all else fails, have fun.
That shouldn't be the 10th rule. It should be the first rule. And
No,
it shouldn't be all else. You say, try to have fun.
well, see, they're the order I discovered them. The first rule is show up. The first rule was show up.
Okay, that's a great first rule. Actually.
That is a fantastic first rule. But it's something I realized, like, why do people succeed versus people that fail? First rule, show up.
Yeah.
Rule 2, this is the non-PG version. Do your shit. Do what you're supposed to do. Again, I somehow always feel like an idiot saying that first rule. I always do because it seems simple, but it's so true. It's the one thing it's the difference between do and do not. And I've seen, right? Do your shit. The cliche, don't quit. Right? The rest is rain. I won the Aurora for this show. This when this rule came into place. Get out of your own fucking way. Realize what you're good at. Realize what you suck at. Try to do the first. And if you can't avoid the second, be honest with yourself about it. So stay out of your own fucking way. Rule 6, be grateful, be charitable. Rule 7, no excuses. Rule 8, stay uncomfortable. Rule 9, don't fall in love with outcomes. And rule 10, when I'll ask if you don't know what to do, have fun. I don't know. I think they're all good rules.
I like it. You gonna put them on a shirt and sell it as merch?
Probably. I'm actually debating about writing a book about it. I'm debating it because a lot of people like my inspirational stuff. I remember when you were on Facebook. I know you saw the odd one here and there. Everybody goes, "You should do it. You should do a book about that shit." Okay. Why not? Why not? Yeah, cool. The 10 rules I've learned in life and why I do them. So,
by the sage of Canmore.
There or something like that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. At that point, yeah, Canmore half the year and the other half the year wandering all over the place because I don't think that's ever going to stop. So,
sounds awesome.
Yeah. So, my friend, so how are the books going? Has your experiment gone well?
I mean, it's you try to control the things you control. I think it's sort of a steady growth, and in a way, I think it's a very traditional pattern for a writer. I'm sort of building into a mid-list kind of having a back catalog, getting a reputation, having a recognizable name. I think I managed to avoid any scandals that would cause one side or another of the science fiction world to hate me. So yeah, my 15th novel came out last month, 2 months ago. Came out in May. So yeah, 16, 17, and 18 are already basically done and in the pipeline. Those will come out over the next year and a half or so, something like that. I got to write 19 and 20 now. That's my project for this year, and I've been doing too much consulting and legal work and stuff. Has been slowing me down, but I basically about have the decks cleared now, so that should really start to happen.
I'm happy for you, man. I gotta get more of your books. Like I said, I'm enjoying. So I'm reading right now Victoria Aveyard. Then I gotta read this book because I said I would.
Okay.
And then after that, it's actually one of yours. So it's in, and you will see a review on it on both BookBub and on Amazon eventually when I finish reading it. Right.
Awesome.
You have a good sense of fun. I started reading it way before the pandemic. I started reading your first book, and then things got kind of crazy, and so yeah. So anyway, my friend,
man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, dude, it sounds like you're rocking and or rolling, and that's a really, really good thing. Yeah, and like I said, I might sound like I have it all together, but half the time I'm wondering if I know what the hell I'm doing, right? Yeah.
That's rule 6. Stay uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's relate. Yes.
Relate. Okay.
Yeah, relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. C.S. Lewis beat that one, but yeah, stay uncomfortable. So, no, but yeah, it's like I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but it seems like I'm there, and sounds like you've done very well for yourself. It's not what you imagined it would be. It sounds like.
Well, that's true, but I mean, you know how it is. You get into writing. I think it's like many other endeavors. You see the J.K. Rowling and the George Martin, and you think, well, that's going to be me. You don't see the guy that wrote one book, sold no copies, became alcoholic, quit and died in the gutter, right? Which is also a possible outcome. So yeah, you get into it and realize, oh, okay, there's more work. I'm going to do the work so that I can be eligible for the luck, so that I can be here with a planted field in case it rains.
Exactly. Right? That's what you got. That's the job. That's the real job at the end of the day, is have I got all my ducks in a row? Because if I got all my ducks in a row, then I'm just going to trust it's because something's going to work out. Last question, because this is an interesting thought.
Okay.
Do you want movies at this point, or do you want video games?
I mean, so it's interesting, right? So I think the reason, well, I think either of those would sell copies of the book. And I think unless the contract basically keeps me in the creative process for the movie or the TV show or the video game, then in a creative sense, what I own is the book, and the movie is sort of somebody else's work. This is how Umberto Eco talked about the film version of The Name of the Rose. He said, look, that's his movie. Yeah, right. That's not my book. And there are some big differences between them. Now, but the existence of the Sean Connery and Christian Slater movie sold a frick ton of copies of the book, right? So I think the truth is I'd be happy with any of those. I would be thrilled if Amazon or Netflix or Apple came and said, "Hey, we'd like to make your book into a show, a movie, or a TV show. Here's some money." I'd be happy if Blizzard said, "Hey, here's some money. We want to make a video game." I think I would not want to be involved. I mean, maybe it depends. It would be kind of awesome if Denis Villeneuve was like, "I want you to come be the showrunner with me and make this TV show out of The Witch You Were." I think I would have to say yes, please, to that. But I think my default preference would be. Sorry, my dog is suddenly out of nowhere down here.
No, I've had a 3-year-old hold the show hostage. I know my place in the world, John. I know. Yeah.
I think my default assumption would be that I'd let them make that. If they pay me money, awesome. Happy to have money, and money is fine, right? But the big benefit is if that game or that TV show actually comes to market, right? It's like a gigantic marketing campaign for the books.
It is.
And that's what I would want.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Now, me personally, it's video games. I'll tell you, and for one very simple reason. Video games can do something that books can't, and that is interact.
Yeah.
That's
you become a chooser.
Yes, that's right. And I dig that. I think in the world of decentralization, it will be video games that will be truly the last of all. I think I right, because the thing is, while I do see there's indie platforms out there, there's still AAA games. The fact is, all the companies are relatively still healthy, and I think in the next year or two are going to get even healthier with the way things are going to go, right? And I think with that, it's going to be a long time before what's happening in publishing now is happening it will happen there. It'll happen, I think, it's happening in television right now. Movies are still relatively unaffected, but even they are starting to feel that I think television's going to go, or at least go to, may not decentralize to the same extent books and music did, but still going to decentralize somewhat. And then on top of that, I think movies then after that will feel the sting. And then finally video games will finally be like, hey, we're joining the crowd. Reluctantly, but we're joining the crowd.
I mean, that's interesting. So books, right? Any fool can write a book. Not necessarily a good one, right? But any fool can write a book. You just start typing.
Yes.
Right? You keep typing for 300 pages and you have a book. You might have written complete horse slobber. You have a book. And to be able to publish that, all you really need is Microsoft Word and an internet connection. And right, maybe something like GIMP to create a cover file.
Yeah. By the way, folks, just for the record, please don't do this.
Yeah, this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But it happens. And so, like another industry that you didn't mention is music production, and it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So as the tools to create and record and produce become cheaper and cheaper, and the tools for distribution become cheaper and cheaper, the middlemen, the big music companies, the record stores are wiped out one by one because they don't have a role anymore.
There's another part of that too, which is I think the audience diversifies, and because that's the one big thing about creating your own stuff is now you can hit niches a lot more specifically, and because then you turn everything into a niche, these big companies with the big formulas no longer are hitting the same people anymore.
So I think that sometimes happens, and I think that is a positive outcome.
Yes.
But I think conversely, the other thing that happens is the more we are in one market, the more we are on global communication, one system, we're all in Facebook, we're all on Microsoft Word, the more we're going to be dominated by what Nassim Taleb calls black swan events. The more you can have something like one book just has a popularity freak. One TV show like freakishly captures all global attention, and I think we skew to. So you used to say things like the Pareto rule, 80-20. 20% of the books make 80% of the sales, right? And that idea, the Pareto rule, actually comes from looking at Italian landholding patterns, but it's been applied to a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Including publishing. But I don't think it's 80-20 anymore. I think it's like 95-5, where there's a small number who are getting the Harry Potter is still sitting in giant stacks in bookstores, right? They still have giant stacks of Game of Thrones and Game of Thrones board games and whatever sitting in Barnes and Noble, right? Like there's a small number that dominate that dominate sales. I would love for the Pareto rule to go the other way and have it be like 30-70, right? In other words, more and more diversified, local, local, not in a geographical sense, but like in an interest sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a community. Hey, we are defined by the fact that we like braided beards and axe throwing. All right. And so I'm going to write an album of music for people who like braided beards and axe throwing. I'm going to write books with braided beards and axe throwers or whatever. That book is clearly never going to be a bestseller, but there's a clear market, right? Like I would prefer that world. I think to some extent that world has been made popular, and a little bit maybe it's even existing. Although usually in the places where it does exist, I don't like it.
No, it's fair. That's fair.
But I also think we have increased possibilities. The same tool, internet, basically, we're exposed more and more to massive global pop culture phenomena, which I actually think is not. It's not interesting. It may not be healthy. It's not interesting. I like more human variety.
So, yeah, I have found. So this is the thing: the places where you can go find that stuff is
Yeah.
Kickstarter, Unbound, right? Places like that, you can definitely find the first thing you're talking about. I think this is the other conversely. This is the other part of the market we got to talk about too. I do agree with you. It is 95.5, but only in that pie. I think now what's happened is now there's a bunch of different pies,
Yeah.
right? So, like for me, my next 3 books I'm going to Kickstarter. Why? Because I think a lot of authors don't know. I want to see if I can figure out how to make this space work for me. Because if I can, right, I don't really care if I get 1,000 people or 100 people. What I care about is that I have an audience that I'm constantly catering to that will work for me, and that's kind of how I see it. And I think that now that's one aspect. There are others. There are other places you can go too. The idea is, I think what's happened is, again, this is the decentralization effect in music and publishing. Because, and again, I'm reiterating this to the audience: please, for the love of God, not GIMP and Microsoft Word. Just don't. But right, but I think because there is such a decentralized way of publishing, I think what's also, it has created different pies, because because indie books are becoming more of a norm, right? These indie albums are more of a norm. Indie games are more of a norm. Indie movies are more of a norm, right? And so what I think is that big pie for that 95. I do think it's a 95.5. But I think what's also happened is a lot. I think that pie has shrunk, and in the process of it shrinking, a lot of the audience has drifted away and have gone to other things.
I really hope that's true. My concern, I think that probably is true.
Yeah.
My concern is in publishing, what I see is that a surprisingly large number of those pies, those smaller pies, turned out to be some weird kind of porn. So, like,
Yeah.
Yes. That it's actually constructive that we now can easily find Mastodon porn on Amazon, right? The existence of Amazon made it discoverable. The self-publishing tools meant you could start writing. You could every week put out your Mastodon porn, your Bigfoot porn. There's porn.
I can't argue with you on that somewhat, because there is one of those. That is one of those. How do I put this? Upside / downsides. The upside, you have more freedom. The downside,
you have more freedom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it goes both ways. It goes both ways. So I mean, now here's the question. Here's the question. I guess is, are you okay with the problems that have been created from this? Right, and that's a much more and that's a difficult question to answer, because here's the thing: I like the freedom. I do like the Wild Westness. of it right now, because what it means is, going back to something you said earlier, the old paradigms have to change, and these old systems are going to either get smaller or they're going to have to evolve. That's just the way it is, right? That's just how they're going to have to do this, right? The movie industry is changing because of this decentralization concept. I think for publishing, this is the unfortunate thing. I think as publishing as we know it, it's kind of too late in some cases. I kind of look at like it's the Titanic heading for the iceberg as it currently is, and I don't know if it can right the ship any in time. I think it could. I just think they want to, because here's the thing: when the pie is this small, you have control. It's your pie. Like going back to something I said earlier with my dad with his business, right? Yes, it's gotten smaller, but it's all yours. Is that right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of shakeup coming in mass media and technology, but I think there's other kinds of shakeups coming that are worse. I mean, I think you guys are seeing on your side of the border crazy inflation too, right?
If you want to go down, we can talk that little rabbit hole. Yeah, that's 1978 is where we're at right now.
Yeah, and you know, probably that's like a whole other conversation, but maybe, so I think there are going to be some bad dislocations and shakeups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we're over the waterfall. So I think maybe as part of that, we will see things like Hollywood as we know it ceasing to exist, right?
Yeah.
And I think publishers won't really change until one of them gets killed, like a big publisher goes bankrupt. I think then they'll really wake up and say, why are we paying for expensive headquarters in New York? This is ridiculous. We could be headquartered in Kansas City or Winnipeg, right? There's no reason we have to be in the most expensive cities.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of change coming, and it's going to be painful. But I would love to end up in the world where there is a cheap, ubiquitous tool for voluntarily contacting anybody. I don't want to spy on anyone. I don't want to monitor anybody, right? But a way to, if people who want to could get in touch with somebody in Sri Lanka or, Melbourne or Hong Kong, or I love that. And that the result of that is we got away from the global access got us away from a global monoculture. And I think part of that, maybe part of the monoculture has been in the second half of the 20th century, American military domination kind of went hand in hand with export of American culture, right? Coca-Cola, Hollywood, right? Clint Eastwood films are all translated into Italian and Turkish. The reverse is not true. I would like to see nobody having that kind of cultural hegemony, everyone being able to build communities of interest or language or culture that they like. That sounds wonderful to me, right? I think that's possible now. We can do that, but I think many of us basically are still in the monoculture. Or at least we have one foot in it. I know my local culture, but I also know there's what's coming out from Hollywood this week. What is Netflix releasing? What are they?
So you must you might be a little jealous of me. I completely abandoned television years ago.
Nice.
Yeah, I completely abandoned. I am on FaceCrack, which I am envious of you for getting rid of. Catch is, Facebook helps me get podcast guests.
That is the problem. This was my easiest. I was in touch with like 3,000 of my readers, basically. And I walked away from that.
No, but here's the crazy thing. I think you're right. I am not so secretly looking for a way to get off of Facebook myself, because I'm looking at Facebook. It's a dead end, right? It's a dead end, and I can see it. I'm trying some other networks out. I think Twitter is going to get to the dead end first. I think that's my opinion. But Facebook's going that way too. Right now, if there was a social media platform to start, like right, you've tried some, I'm trying some right now, that
Yep.
takes out that gets some steam. I would drop Facebook in a heartbeat, and I'm not the only one. I know there's a lot of people that would walk away from it. But going to what you're saying, I think this is the next. We are going through all these upheavals because we'll get right down to we can cut wherever we might believe. This is what's coming down. Our current system no longer works. The real debate and question comes: what's going to come next? Now, on my personal opinion, we are all headed towards decentralization. Now,
that's true, man. I'd love it.
no. But there's a question. It's the route we get there is how we do it now. Now we can go straight there now if we wanted to. The technology is there. The possibilities are there now. What I think
who's we in that sentence, right? If we wanted to, like
I honestly
want to.
I think
If it was a vote, we get there. I don't think it's about a vote, right? Like who?
I think this is my opinion. I think one of the biggest things I've learned interviewing all the creatives I've learned on this show is this. As a general rule of thumb, human beings do not recognize their own worth and underestimate their own negotiating power. And I remember this because when I was a kid, this is back in my day. Shut up, clouds. I back in my day, my grandma used to be coupons that would come in the thing, and they would cut them up and we'd go to the grocery stores, and I would watch this. My grandmother is still a world class haggler. She clean you. She would take your hat, your shirt, and everything else for whatever you wanted, and you'd be like, "How did this freaking happen? What did this lady do to me?" Right? She's good at it. She's great at that. But the thing is, that generation knew how to negotiate for everything. Now you go to some certain cultures in the world, that's still there. But for the most part, we as a culture here, whatever the price is, we pay it. Now again, one of those many lessons of the pandemic for me is I realized I don't have to cooperate with anybody. And I say that with like an evil grin on my face, right? Because I can say that because at this point in my life, it's just like I realize this. It doesn't matter who's in front of me. It's a negotiation. It doesn't really matter. What do I want here? What do they want here? And do I want to give it to them? That is again a very different attitude than most people have. Now, could you imagine if everybody allowed a little bit like me in that regard? Do you think what's going on right now would be going on right now? I don't think it would. I think I think on a personal level, if people recognize their own worth a lot more honestly, none of this shit would be happening. I think our complacency has opened the door to this. Now, depending on how bad the beating is over the next few years, because it is going to be a beating, right? People are going to go back, and people are going to have to either come to recognize they're either going to believe they're worth nothing or they're worth everything, right? That is a personal battle everyone's soul for the next few years. That's my own opinion. Now, going back to what I said about decentralization, we are going there. It doesn't like we have now. The question is, does the Tower of Babel get built first before we go back there? Right? Because I think we could now go there. The tools exist today where we could go to all the big guys like this.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be a damn thing that could do about it. But I also think that comes down to a united front of people recognizing, hey, we want more. Do I think people have that attitude right now? No. But will they have that attitude in a few years? Maybe. If not, it blows up. It gets centralized, and then I think like the Tower of Babel, it goes boom.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. You say provocative things, and we're just gonna have to have another conversation sometime too. I think people. One of the things that makes people lose the power to say no is the way civil society, and I certainly have a much clearer view of the U.S. than Canada here, right? Mm-hmm. The way civil society has gotten thinned out. Mm-hmm. So where it becomes, look, if I have the state government doing some things and the city government doing some things and the federal doing some, but also my Masonic Lodge doing some things and the Rotary Club doing some things and the the local small business organization doing something, then I'm not dependent on any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can kill me, right? Everyone, they have certain spheres, and I have allegiance to all of them, but I have a say in all of them, and I have the ability to say no.
Exactly.
The more, and this has happened in the U.S. over the last, I mean, the Civil War was a big obvious moment, but so was the Great Depression and Roosevelt's alphabet soup. And a lot of those organizations have lost power or ceased to exist, and the federal government does more and more and more. And if the federal government does everything, it becomes very hard to say no. And so I think there's an aspect of this which has been, in the U.S. at least, a slowly creeping change in the Constitution, consolidating all power, not just in one level of government, but in basically one entity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because power used to be apportioned not just federal, state, and local, but also outside the government. The Constitution of the U.S. explicitly says, no, if it's not mentioned in here, the people keep the right, right? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would love to see decentralization. I do think we need to realize we have the power to say no. I think part of that, in some sense, is looking back again in the U.S. and saying, hey, it doesn't have to be this model where the federal government takes all my money and decides everything. Like, that's not how it has to be, right? In fact, it's better if it's a different way.
So, do you want me to offer you a little kernel of hope? Because
Sure,
I do know a little bit about what's going on down there. I've been keeping watch of this for a variety of different reasons. COVID has actually increased states' power, not decreased it, increased it. Because of all the mandates being fought and basically overturned, states themselves seized power. They actually took power away from the federal government in the last 2 years, which is something now that has come with some very nasty caveats to it. But if you actually look at the power Biden had when he started versus what he has at this very moment, he actually has less, not more. Right? So there is in the United States right now a pushback as far as up here goes. So
there's pushback there too, right? I mean, I watched every day
okay, so
right.
So I don't necessarily have the popular view up here, but this is my view of it. This is how I look at it. Okay, if you think the truckers were protesters, what the government did was wrong. If up here you think they were, a lot of people up here think they were selfish terrorists. I still think that, but I would submit to them, to anyone that thinks that in those terms, what the government did was actually worse. I worked for an immigration company. I actually got to watch the Canadian government talk to the Taliban. I got to do research about that because they had to get Afghan refugees to come back from the country. When the Taliban took over the government, who was the Canadian government dealing with? The Taliban. There's that's what they're dealing with. That's reality. So if you're going to talk to a foreign terrorist organization and you're not going to talk to your own people, you have damaged, right? Just for the simple fact that if your capital city is being held hostage, now I don't believe that, but if your capital city is being held hostage and you're not going to talk to the terrorists, that is an indictment on what you think of your own people. You're not going out of your way to protect them at all. So what I think, so again, if you think they were terrorists, what Ottawa did was worse, right? If you think they were protesters, that's bad enough. But if you actually think they were terrorists, and that's my opinion, folks, like it or lump it, that is my opinion, because they refuse to talk to these people. It has undone Canada a little bit, even though a lot of people kind of want things to go back to the way they are. The reality is this has created a divide up here that didn't exist before. And as long as Trudeau is in power, that divide is going to exist. Now, the moment he goes, it might go away. It depends on what happens afterwards.
Well, that's
But
interesting, right? To what extent is it driven by personalities? I mean, I
yeah,
think in the U.S. what
yeah,
happened is Trump ultimately revealed divides that were much bigger than him.
yeah. No. Trump was CNN's wet dream. That's what
That
he
is true.
was. They know.
Their ratings have utterly collapsed.
Yeah. No, they were CNN's wet dream because they are now. It's funny because this is the thing about the United States. I remember when Fox News was terrible, like absolutely the piddling shits in the early 2000s. It was the absolute worst network, and this is how a lot of people think of Fox News. I still don't think they're a great network, but they're the only network that talks about corporate power. They're the only network now that talks about, and all the other networks are in line with these systems and power, right? Again, I'm not saying Fox News is great. It's not. But I'm very well aware that the fact is, right, they're not balanced, but they're the only ones that even talking about those things.
Yeah,
And yeah.
I saw Glenn Greenwald saying that this morning in an interview. Who he's pretty serious left, and an interviewer from Reason magazine had said, "Hey, how come you're appearing on Fox News all the time these days?" He said, because they're the only ones, that are willing to challenge the white collar military industrial.
They're the only. They're the only. They went so far. They actually came back to something that's a little bit more. Now, again, I'm not saying they're great because they still have a lot. There's a lot of stuff from the early 2000s. I still listen to in their stuff that in their rhetoric. I go, ugh. But it's realizing that, again, looking at what's going on right now, what you're seeing here in my country, what you're seeing is our first actual exposure to what democracy can look like when it's ugly, right? And that's because that's the other hypocritical thing too, is Trudeau condoned the protests in India a year prior, which, if it sounds familiar, a bunch of tractors going into the city of New Delhi to protest food rights. It's not that different from a bunch of trucks parking into Ottawa. So it's not, but the thing is, it's ugly. When you see democracy being fought, it's not pretty. It's not glorious. It is an ugly. And I speak for that because my dad's from Detroit. He grew up in a black neighborhood in the 60s. Do you know what was going on in those neighborhoods in the 60s? Right? That's like, democracy can be ugly. And that's just that's the way it is. And Canada is young enough never to have seen it. Right? And that's just it. Like, again, I know there's some Canadian listeners who might be appalled at what I'm saying, but it's the truth. Look it up.
Yep.
So, no, there's upheaval going on everywhere because what's happening is, and this is something I said, like something you point out, the system is breaking down. You can see it. It's breaking down. It can no longer do it the way it's doing. So, what I think, like, again, a more cynical version of myself would say to you that this is the current system in power's last gas to stay relevant, because I think their time is up, because the tools are no longer there. And that's a cynical version. A not so cynical version would be to say that we have become so used to the way things were, we are not fully aware of the way things are or where they're going. And we need to catch up. And I think the big problem in North America, regardless of whatever you might think of what I've just said, is this: we're still complacent. We're still rich compared to everybody else. So the ass kicking. So whereas other countries would have moved their ass already, right? We need a bigger ass kicking, and that's what's coming.
Yeah, that might be right.
Yeah.
Well, I hate to end it on a down note.
No, I know.
And so
why don't you? I'm sorry, man. Like I said, we like I said, I by the way, I would not be that. I don't think I'm the typical Canadian reaction. I don't think so. I just this is me looking around. Someone else will tell you that the truckers are selfish. Someone else will tell you that the truckers are awesome. Someone else might tell you, what I'm telling you is, I don't really care how you look at them. It's
the government did not handle it right.
No.
Yeah.
No matter how you look at it, they didn't. And that's why we have the problems we are having right now. So,
yeah.
But anyways, yeah, I'm sorry this was such a down note at the end.
No. It's a very provocative conversation. It's always good to talk to you, my friend. Congrats on your successes and your journey, and I look forward to talking again soon and seeing how you're progressing towards getting to Canmore.
Yeah. Well, you're either going to be one of two things. I'm either going to be in Canmore in the mountains, or you're going to be like an ice cream style truck with my logo on it. I'm debating actually get real ice cream music, because I think that would be a hilarious troll any city I'd go to. Right? And then me traveling and interviewing people across country. Who knows? Maybe the next time I see you, I might actually be in the same neighborhood as you and go, hey, Dave, you want a beer or coffee or whatever it is you like to drink?
Yeah, you're about due north of me. I mean, right up the I-15 corridor in Alberta. So, I know it's about a 15-hour drive or something. I could be up there.
Yeah, or vice versa. Well, you want our beer because your beer is not the greatest. But yeah. But anyways, there you go. Happy note. What book would you like to promote while you're here?
Oh, hey. Well, my most recent came out 2 months ago. Is called Abbott in Darkness. It is a science fiction novel. It's about an accountant who is a young guy with 2 small kids and a wife and a dog, who goes to a faraway solar system to start his career. He's assigned to investigate corruption, and realizes he's at the center of a plot that involves all kinds of wrongdoing, up to and including gun running, and potentially starting a war between humans and the local aliens. So it's kind of a science fiction. It's a little like, so if you liked Lost in Space, this Lost in Space remake last year or 2 years ago, kind of family in space science fiction. It's a little bit like that, a little bit of a thriller. Abbott in Darkness.
Abbott in Darkness. Sounds cool. And how can people find you, my friend?
I'm back on Twitter, at least for the moment. Although I don't know if Twitter, I got back on thinking it would be shaken up by Elon Musk. Not clear how it's going to go now. So I might get off Twitter.
I actually tell you what, you stay for an extra 10 minutes after we get off the air. I will give you some good news / bad news.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my website, davidjohnbutler.com. You can find my books and see where I am and stuff there.
Is it JOHN or JON?
JOHN. Yep.
Yeah. I want to make sure, because John can be passing, and I got to look like a trained professional at least some of the time. Anyway.
You got it right. That's it.
Yeah. All right, folks. So this is the amazing DJ Butler, and that is why I always enjoy having him on the show, because he's an interesting dude, and also he wears better hats than I could ever hope to. So
thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah, and so everybody watching, everybody listening, if you are looking to advertise your project or yourself, I have advertising services available here. I not only will I create assets for you, I will use my platforms to help get it out there. So if you want to take a look, you can definitely go do so, and that will do it. I got a double header on Monday. First off, at noon my time, heavy metal band Osiron comes on my show, and then at evening we just moved it to an extra day. JD Estrada will join the show, so that will be fun. So everybody watching, everybody listening, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. Stay inspired, keep shining in the dark, and I'll see you next time.